From NBC News, this is Today with Katie Couric and Matt Lauer. Live from Studio 1A in Rockefeller Plaza.
Coming up in this half hour, we're going to talk about a facelift without going under the knife.
Yeah, apparently we're going to watch the whole thing take place. It's called a ThreadLift. And apparently, I guess it's involving threads.
Right. And
it's not nearly as invasive as a traditional facelift. So we're going to take you to that doctor's office and watch someone undergo it live. It's 8:09, and this morning on Turn Back the Clock, do you want to look younger but you're afraid to go under the knife? Today's consumer correspondent Janice Lieberman is at a doctor's office here in New York with one solution. Hi, Janice.
Good morning, Katie. It is not gory, I promise. It's called a ThreadLift. It promises instantaneous results. It takes about 60 minutes, really. It's not for the person who really wants a facelift, is not ready for a facelift, but wants to stop looking so tired. Now, doctors say it is much less stretched looking, less freakish looking, a little more natural looking. We have some before and after pictures to show you of some recent procedures. Doctors say you can expect about 60 to 70% of the effect of a traditional, conventional lift with a lot less recovery time. Well, we met one woman who was ready for a ThreadLift.
I don't wear a lot of makeup. I try putting a little pencil up here to get my eyes looking like they're further up. Nothing works.
Maina Fabry, mother of four, just turned 57. Looking in the mirror and stretching her face has become habit for her.
All of a sudden, you've got this face that doesn't really belong to you.
First thing in the morning, while the milk is steaming, she checks her kitchen mirror because the light is good and contorts her face. Then it's off to brush her teeth. Yep, another check in the mirror. And putting on a turtleneck, well, that's just plain torture.
This winter, I put on a turtleneck sweater one morning, and it caught me here, and that's all I saw.
The turtleneck has been tossed away for now as Maina awaits her ThreadLift, a procedure that will allow her face to be tightened with the use of threads inserted in her face. Dr. Mulholland of Toronto, Canada, will perform the lift. Maina meets with the doctor a week before to see how she might look after the facelift.
And you should be able to achieve this kind of a lift. About that much.
Well, we're here in New York City with Dr. Stephen Mulholland. He actually developed the ThreadLift. He doesn't work out of New York City. He's out of Toronto, Canada, and Los Angeles, but he's teaching 350 doctors around the country. Now, doctor, is this FDA approved, or is this some crazy kind of procedure?
Oh, it's evolved over the last 3 to 4 years, and recently the contour thread, the contour suture, was approved, making this a type of procedure that any physician who's been trained can do.
All right, tell me what you're going to do and how the procedure works for Maina.
It's pretty straightforward. Maina is an ideal candidate because she's got a little facial drooping, a little extra tissue in the jawline area, the cheeks have fallen, the tails of the brow are a little low, and the neck's a little lax. She's not ready for a facelift, but she'd like to elevate that. And so what I do is I go under the skin with a needle. Of course, the tissue is frozen, and we insert these contour sutures. The contour suture has little barbs, almost like a porcupine or like a fish hook. And we grab the fallen tissue and we reposition it. And we hide the knots under the scalp. And it takes about an hour to do. And the patient puts some makeup on, and they can be back to work usually the next day.
And will this be painful for Maina?
Well, putting in the freezing always hurts, and so I warn patients there's a little bit of pain in getting the tissue frozen. Then once you do the ThreadLift, you don't feel anything. There's a little discomfort after, but not nearly as painful as the pain of aging, usually for most patients.
What can she realistically expect? Can you get every problem that she thinks she has taken care of?
No, it's a nice modest lift effect. You can take the loose tissue, and usually I tell patients if you have 1.5 inches to 2 inches and you can pull that out and you can still see your ears, then you're a candidate for ThreadLift. If it goes way out past your ears, then of course you may need a surgery. And you can take that 2 inches and reposition that in a nice natural way up into the hairline and really recreate a nice youthful contour again without having to pull out a knife.
Dr. Mulholland, Janice, I was just going to ask, I'm not sure if you asked this already, but is this painful?
I'm anxious to get it done.
The actual procedure is not painful to do. Putting in the freezing is painful, and then you have some discomfort because needles have been under your skin for a few days after. But it's sort of extra strength Tylenol type of pain.
I mean, she says she's not nervous, Katie. I don't know.
Once I got here and it started, I'm feeling fine.
All right, let's go. Do your work.
safe.
We're going to check
Okay.
back with you later.
Young lady, just put your feet up and we're going to get going here.
All right, so we'll actually, Janice, be able to check back in an hour to see how Maina's looking, right? Is there much swelling or anything after the procedure?
Not a lot of swelling. There's a little bit of swelling from the freezing, a little bit of inflammation from the actual procedure. But most people look good in makeup the next day.
All right, well, good luck to all of you, and we look forward to seeing the results. And Maina, good luck to you. Okay, Janice, thanks.
Katie says
you
good
very
luck. Okay.
Coming up in our final half hour, 57-year-old Maina Fabry, I hope it is trying something new. It's called a ThreadLift. It's a facelift, but it only takes an hour. We met up with her earlier this morning before the procedure began. We're going to get the results in just a few minutes.
Now on Turn Back the Clock, it's the moment we've been waiting for. Time to check back with Maina Fabry. She underwent a ThreadLift facelift earlier this morning, about an hour and a half ago, and now it's time to check out the results. Today's consumer correspondent Janice Lieberman is live now with our patient and doctor. Hey, Janice.
Hi, you know, it's really amazing. She's all done, and she can walk around and do what she wants, but I want you to take a look at how she looks now and how she looked before.
Obviously, we're trying to get a tighter shot of Maina, but while we're doing that, Maina, how are you feeling? By the way, you look amazing.
Thank you.
I don't think she hasn't really seen herself yet. Katie, you want us to give her the mirror?
Yeah, sure.
Here you go, Maina.
That seems only fair.
Right.
Oh, wow. Well, it's a little numb, but and it's hard to speak of it, but I look great. I look like a country girl that's had a lot of rest. Oh, I love it.
Dr. Mulholland, did everything go as planned? And you mentioned earlier that Maina seemed like an ideal patient. Did that prove to be the case?
Yeah, she was. She has very nice tissue for this. She's not too thin and not too heavy. And if you look at what the ThreadLift has accomplished, the contour sutures have come down and grabbed the cheeks that were quite droopy, as you could see in her pre. Her jowl was very loose and her neck was loose, and it's just pulled it back in a nice natural fashion in less than 60 minutes under local. Right now her face will feel numb, so it's hard for her to talk, but in about an hour and a half the freezing will wear off. She'll be able to go home and wash her hair, put on some makeup, and get back into her normal activities. Now, you have to be careful doing thread lifts because these sutures take about 2 to 3 weeks to fully integrate. And so you don't want to put heavy makeup applications, no lying on your face, and no wide open oral maneuvers like biting apples and things like that.
I see. Dr. Mulholland, can I ask you a couple questions? Or is the thread underneath her skin, and where is it placed? In other words, where are those knots placed, and how do you make sure that they don't sort of fall off? I don't quite understand the physics of it.
Well, the physics are pretty straightforward. There's a long needle that's passed under the skin, so it's under the surface of the skin but above the muscle. The contour thread has little barbs, and you grab on, almost like a fish hook in the corner of a fish's mouth, you grab onto that loose tissue and you pull. There's a little tiny needle insertion point, and you have 2 threads coming together. You tie a knot, and you bury that knot, push the knot under the scalp, and put a tiny little stitch up there. So the stealth little maneuvers are through the hair, the knots are hidden under the scalp, and the clear contour suture comes out over the face and is hidden because it's under the skin.
So how many of those scalp sutures are there in Maina's head now?
Well, I use about 8 or 9, 2 in the brow, 3 in the cheek, 2 in the jowl, and 2 in the neck. And so you have to tell patients there are strings attached to this kind of lift.
And Maina, how do you feel? I mean, was it pretty painless? Because I know you did have anesthesia, right? Or local anesthesia? Anesthetic, whatever it's called?
It was completely painless, and I was quite worried, and there was nothing to worry about.
Well, good.
At all.
Are you Canadian? I just heard you say about.
Oh, about?
That's all right, that's all right. And this will last, Dr. Mulholland, 3 to 5 years, right?
Yeah, I've been doing this 4 years, and patients are coming back now in their 4th year. But it's got what I call the 3 R's of appeal, which is it's replaceable, it's removable, and it's redoable. And so in 3 or 4 years, she'll start to loosen up in and around her jowl area, and then it's a simple little technique to just do a jowl thread, a contour thread to pull the jowl. And so for those that want to stave off the ravages of Isaac Newton and gravity, just replacing a few threads in strategic locations can put off open facelift surgery for quite some time.
I think we have to ask you the price, doctor. I mean, as compared to regular facelift, and how much would this cost around the country average?
There's about 300 doctors trained around the country in this technique, and everyone charges a different price. But on average, it's about $1,000 to $1,500 per zone. So your brow would be about $1,000 or $1,500, somewhere in that range. Your face, your cheek, and your jowl would be $1,500, and your neck might be $1,500. And then some doctors would put it all together into some price between $4,000 and $7,000. So quite a bit less than a full brow, cheek, or neck lift.
Which would run $20,000 possibly.
And if you look at her now, it is clearly over 50 or 60% of what an open lift can do. There's many open surgeries that would look like that.
All right, thank you, Maina. You look fantastic. And Dr. Mulholland, great job. We appreciate you. Got a lot of courage to be here doing this live. Katie, right?
All right, yeah, absolutely. And Maina, just in closing, you're pleased with the effect and the results?
I've just had a chance to look in that one mirror, and I just see everything gone that I didn't want there already.
Well, there you go.
And it's not painful. It was very easy to do, and I was, you know, a little anxious, and much easier than I thought.
Well, thank you so much for doing it on our show.
Gone. They're gone.
Yeah. Well, you look terrific. And Dr. Mulholland, thanks
you
so much for helping us out and demonstrating this technique. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Katie.
Okay. Bye, you guys.
She wanted to look a bit younger and a little less tired and didn't want to go through the whole facelift thing. So live on TV, there's the brave part, she underwent a new procedure called a ThreadLift. And here she is this morning.
Hey,
Maina, good morning. Nice to see you.
Good morning.
How are you feeling?
A little hungry.
A little hungry.
hungry.
We should mention that you're not really able to eat solid food for how long?
3 days.
So, you know, you get a facelift and you're going to lose a few pounds. Not that you
don't need it. Yeah.
I had chocolate mousse with a straw last night.
Oh, you did?
Yes,
so
it was very good.
Tell us, when all is said and done, are you happy with the outcome, and are you pleased that you actually did this in the first place?
I'm very pleased that I did it, and I'm very happy with the outcome. My children phoned me and they said my neck is gone, which I guess is a good thing. That's the last thing I would notice. The
little extra skin under there?
The little extra skin.
You're 57 years old, right?
In June.
In June. Okay, so 56.
Don't rush her.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And we have a shot. You weren't sort of thrilled with the way you were looking, and we have a before shot. And what you didn't like your neck, and you didn't like sort of the fact that your cheeks had dropped a little bit, is that right?
Well, it's, you know, this line comes down and you just start sinking and sagging.
You look amazing.
You really do. And again, we're only 24 hours away from the surgery. Are you in pain? Are you in discomfort? No.
No?
You're moving, that.
My neck is a little stiff, and I think it's natural just to try and guard yourself.
Right.
Right.
You know,
right. And we should mention, Matt, for people who might not have been watching the procedure yesterday, basically there were threads that were put under your skin and then tied, sort of anchored on your head. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Can you feel where they were anchored? Can you show me?
Well, there's one right here.
Yeah.
Here, you can see it. Now.
Oh, I see.
Oh, I see it right there.
Uh-huh.
And using these threads, they could avoid the traditional cutting that's part of a facelift.
Right. Oh, I see. Right there. Now, will that thread sort of disappear?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Well, it makes you wonder why someone would actually go under the knife, if you will, now that this procedure is available. This last 3 to 5 years.
It didn't hurt while he was doing it either. That's what I was surprised about. Yeah. That's what I was anxious about.
Well, you look great.
And you do. And thanks for doing it on live TV. I give you a lot of credit for that. And thanks for coming in this morning.
Thank you.
All right.
From NBC News, this is Today
you know, people have been watching this show regularly in the recent weeks. We have had two women who basically have gone through non-invasive procedures to look better. One of them is a kind of facelift that's not a surgery, involving sort of strings that pull her face up. And another one you're just looking there is a kind, it's not a tummy tuck, it's non-surgical, but they're using radio waves to sort of diminish the size of your belly. Anyway, these two women who are willing to do this on national television are joining us this morning to tell us how they're doing.
Okay.
This morning on today's Consumer Report, non-invasive plastic surgery. If you're looking for a younger appearance but you don't want to go under the knife, we've got an update on some of the women who tried to turn back the clock live on our program. Well, Janice Lieberman is our consumer correspondent. Janice, good morning.
Good morning. Back in April, we showed you the ThreadLift live on the air. Now, that was a procedure that gives the appearance of a facelift without the cutting. So we thought we'd check in and see how our ladies are doing now.
She's a lady. Whoa, 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 she's a lady.
Life is good for 57-year-old Maina Fabry these days. Back in April, Dr. Stephen Mulholland performed a facial thread lift live on our show. It took less than an hour with no cutting to lift Maina's face. Here's what she said right after the procedure.
It was completely painless, and I was quite worried, and there was nothing to worry about.
And today, she's loving her new look.
I feel great. I look in the mirror, and I'm very happy, and I glow.
And all that makeup she used to hide her flaws in the garbage.
Well, I used to use eyeliner to try to make my eyes look like they were still going up, but now they go up on their own. And it's the same with lip liner. You don't need much lip liner. The lips used to go down here, and now they're just sort of going nicely this way.
It's fun. I did the same thing happened.
Like all good friends, Maina couldn't keep her new look a secret. She shared it with her best buddy.
So you just felt so great about your face, you just had to run out and tell your best friend.
I just called her up and I said, I'm coming right over. You've got to see this now. You know, that night you were making dinner?
It was.
Cynthia Carlton liked what she saw.
She looked just radiant. So my husband's a physician. So I thought, well, I'll check it out, you know, from the medical point of view. And he said, do it. He said, I can't see that there would ever be a problem.
And then what did he say?
And he said, matter of fact, if you look really great, I'll do it too.
This is fun.
So now it's back to shopping for these gals, enjoying their new faces, and as usual, looking for new wardrobe.
Now, it's been some time now after all of this. I mean, you guys really went through this big change. In fact, Maina, I noticed that as you were watching the tape, you actually had a little emotion in your eyes. I mean, this has been a big change for you. How's it affected your life?
I have a proposal on the table.
Somebody you mean a marriage proposal? Someone
Yes.
you met since the
since
procedure?
Since.
And well,
which
you must be so happy. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
By the way, he doesn't know about this.
Oh.
The facelift part.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're going.
Thank you.
No,
Now he does. But he lives in Canada.
Yeah, but still, I mean, I think so. So your life is going really well in terms of that. And also, let me talk to you about this, though. I mean, these are relatively new procedures, and so doctors don't have a lot of experience doing them. And I know people now watching this are going to be thinking, hey, you know, maybe I should think about some of this. But I guess I'm worrying about things like, you know, with the facelift, if a doctor doesn't get it right, you know, you must have been a little bit nervous about wanting to make sure it was going to be done just the way you wanted.
Well, actually, I wasn't. It's non-invasive. I wasn't afraid. And I also know that it could easily be adjusted if it had to be, which it didn't, because of the way it's done with the threads. They can actually adjust.
So if it's not exactly right, which is different from when you have surgery, you can have a say in a change.
Apparently. I didn't need it, but I know that that is available. It's possible.
And in the case of, for example, after a period of time, those I guess those wires or strings that are holding up the face, they deteriorate over time.
That's right, and the
So what
collagen
happens then?
actually holds it up, but gravity will pull your face down. And you can have a little touch up. You could have one lift, one thread here, one on your forehead, depending where you need it. So it's minor touch ups. Apparently, now this hasn't been around all that time, so let's see how long
It's
it lasts.
still being tested.
They're saying 3-4 years.
Thanks so much for joining us, and thank you, Janice.
Okay,
for
we're
bringing
going to
us
be
this story.
back.
That's right. We should probably tell everybody that in our next half hour, we're going to answer any emails that you send to us. If you'd like to send a question to either of these women or to Janice, you can go to our website at today.msnbc.com.
From NBC News, this is Today.
We talked about the facelift, the thread lift, and also the tummy shrink, where we've got so many emails. You don't need this, Josh.
You don't need
Yeah, I know, exactly. But some people do need to worry about these, and a lot of people have emailed us, so we're going to be answering the email questions coming up in this half hour.
Over the last several months, we've shown you a couple of quick fixes for looking younger, alternatives to traditional plastic surgery. In our last hour, we saw the results of Maina Fabri's facial thread lift. Today's consumer correspondent Janice Lieberman has been following Dorian and Maina's progress, and since we received so many emails about both, we thought we'd try to answer a couple of quick questions for you. But first of all, good morning, ladies. Good morning. That was a mouthful. Okay, you were on earlier this morning. Janice, for those people who didn't see earlier, just explain what procedure they both had.
Maina had a facelift, but not a traditional facelift. She actually had threads put in her face to lift them. Now, these threads will disintegrate eventually, and they lifted up her face, and there was no cutting involved.
And they both look fabulous.
Unbelievable.
Okay, so Janice, let's get into some of the emails, and then we can talk about some of the other specific questions that people have. The first email is from Jennifer in Tennessee. She wants to know how much recovery time is involved with either procedure.
First of all, it only took about an hour for Maina's procedure, and yours took about 30 minutes. We did it live on the air in front of everybody, and there was no screaming, no blood. I was there. What would you say the recovery time is for you?
To tell you the truth, I went out that night. I was here in New York and I wasn't going to pass it up, so I went walking in the evening.
So
I got myself, I could only eat soft food.
I was going to say, for 3 days, right, you had to have soft liquid food. And then what about makeup application? There's a certain period of time you have to wait to put too much makeup on, is that correct?
I haven't been using any makeup since because, I don't know, it just changes your face and you glow.
And you had to lay flat on your back. You couldn't turn on either side.
I was sleeping for about 3 weeks, 10 days to 3 weeks on my back, just to be careful.
Just tell people, too, how much does each procedure cost? Because there are a lot, they can be costly, but not as bad as real major surgery.
Right. Well, hers cost about $4,500, and depending on what Maina would have done, it was like $2,500 a zone. If you were to have the whole face done, about $6,000. And by the way, they're working on lifting your arms and maybe your boobs. So this thread lift, who knows when it's going to end. It's non-invasive, and if it works, great.
Okay, let's go to another email. This comes from Courtney in Tennessee, who wants to know how painful your procedure was. Did you take any anesthetic? Let's start with you, Maina.
They had given me some anesthetic, more, I think they call it putting you in the twilight zone, and some local. But you don't have to be put to sleep.
No, we were talking to her through the procedure, so she understood
the whole thing. Right. I was watching and talking.
And so it's nothing too major. And okay, let's go to one more email here. I have from Janie in Tennessee. What age is recommended for the facial thread lift?
The doctor said anywhere from 40 to 60. After that, if the skin is too loose, it's really not going to be that effective. So those are the ages when you're first starting to think about having a facelift. This could be, preemptive.
And what strides have we made from a couple months ago? Because one of the things you and I talked about earlier is the threads now, those threads are changing and they can actually disintegrate, right?
It hasn't been FDA approved yet, but the next step is that they're going to disintegrate, because Maina can feel knots in her scalp if she really looks for them. Eventually, you won't even have that. They'll just completely disintegrate. So that's the next step, and also, as I said, the arms. And her doctor is going to do something to do the neck and arms also with this shrinking radio wave Polaris machine. So, it doesn't end. We'll keep you updated.
Okay, terrific. Well, thank you so much, ladies. Janice, thank you, Dorian, and Maina. You all look so fantastic.
Global National with Kevin Newman.
If you're looking for a lift this winter, look no further than your cosmetic surgeon. As Global's Cheryl Hickey reports, there's a new procedure that could spell the end of the traditional facelift. But beware, the pictures you're about to see are graphic.
In today's society, people are always looking for better, cheaper, faster ways to retain their youth. Well, for the past 2 months, plastic surgeon Dr. Stephen Mulholland has been performing one new procedure known as the feather lift, which gives you a non-surgical facelift in half the time of a regular one.
Technique of using facelift sutures that we've been using for many, many years and inserting them through a non-surgical manner using a catheter, like an epidural catheter, and lifting fat. I use sutures to suspend the mid-face and the brow all the time. I just have to make incisions to get in there. This is a beautiful non-incisional, non-surgical way to insert the same sutures with less risk and a nice, pleasing outcome. It's not a facelift, but it's sure coming close.
Mulholland first heard about this procedure, which originated in Europe about a year ago, and has just started it here in Canada.
Huge trend. This is another element in that whole quest for those that want to look their best but don't want the risk of surgery.
This feather lift costs between $4,000 and $8,000 and is not available in the U.S., as it has not been FDA approved. That approval will come in the next 6 months. In the meantime, Dr. Mulholland is already booked with 20 patients eager to get some threading done.
The risks are that it's not done well. There could be some slight asymmetry. There may be some dimpling around the thread.
The risks are 1% or less, but these sutures are not for everyone. Here's what you should know.
They are designed to last forever. Now, can they react? Absolutely. Could you have a suture reaction? Absolutely. Can we remove them? Absolutely.
Like any procedure, some people do not make good candidates.
Poor candidates for the procedure are those patients that have unrealistic expectations. They really want the effects of a real facelift, not a thread lift. Candidates who are unrealistic are not medically well, who perhaps are on blood thinners and may get too much bruising, patients who could be pregnant, and then of course those that are so thin that their tissue will not hide the threads. They're not good candidates either.
Now it's made me, self-assured.
Patricia here is turning 50 next year, and this year she's decided to fight the hands of time by going under the hands of Mulholland for a feather lift.
I feel it's tightness in the face, and I can see a good difference.
How are you doing under there?
Great.
Any pain at all?
No.
Wonderful.
So while Anne cleans up, there's something you should know. There is a big difference between a regular facelift and a feather lift. With a facelift, your downtime can be between 10 days and 4 weeks. A feather lift, your downtime can be 1 day. A regular facelift will last between 7 and 10 years. A feather lift will last between 3 and 5. Now let's check in and see how Anne's feeling now.
Well, I have to eat soft food, and I can't smile. And I have to speak with my teeth close together. And I can't sleep on my face. I have to sleep on my back. Small price to pay.
This is Global's Cheryl Hickey reporting.
Global National with Kevin Newman.
Well, a new type of facelift is lifting jowls and resculpting the faces of women. The ThreadLift is a non-invasive procedure that's done in 30 minutes without a knife. Tonight, a look at how it's done and the results.
Robin Lyle is no stranger to cosmetic enhancement. Botox smooths out the wrinkles, and Perlane fills in what she calls her marionette lines around her mouth. But still, there's something missing.
It's just the old droopiness, the old age setting in.
Robin is 41, and today she's getting a thread lift, a relatively new procedure that's catching on fast with busy women.
In 30 minutes, they can get a noticeable and significant brow, cheek, jowl, and neck tightening safely and effectively without the risk, scars, or recovery.
Or price. An open facelift can cost up to $30,000. The thread lift about $5,000. Patients get a local anesthetic, like a dental block, to freeze the areas where the needles will go.
Well, we're almost done. You should be feeling pretty numb.
Dr. Mulholland inserts a needle into the brow and gently lifts it into an elevated position, giving it that lifted look. Then a thread with tiny barbs is inserted through the needle.
Those little barbs catch onto the fat in the tissue and lift and support.
And this is repeated all down the side of Robin's face until it's sculpted into place.
You can see the elevation of the tail of the brow, the fullness and sweep in the cheek, and along the jowl.
As with any procedure, the thread lift retards with age, gravity takes over. Doctors say this will last between about 3 to 5 years, and it can be done in conjunction with other treatments like Botox.
And there's no guarantee it will be perfect.
Asymmetry, you've got to do it well. There is the risk that the threads could be visible if they're too superficial, and then they have to be removed. And there's the risk of a little dimpling in the skin, and that's correctable.
Half an hour later, Robin is done. She's a little swollen, but Dr. Mulholland says that will go down by the next day.